Do you ever do something different in your studio and then within a few hours you go, oh my God, look what it did. It really screwed something up. Well, right before I jumped on with George, I had been moving some things around and I reattached a mic stand to the actual desk where I normally don't do that because what happens? Doom, 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 especially on a dynamic mic, a heavy dynamic mic, or any kind of dynamic mic. Well, what I have found is you're going to hear a little doom, doom, doom during this podcast. I apologize. I've corrected the issue, and hopefully it won't happen again. But I recorded 3 podcasts last week, and I'm not sure where the mic stand was on the other 2 yet, because I'm only going to edit 1 today. But thanks for joining us this week, because you're in for a treat as I sit and talk with the president of WOVO, George Washington III. So, it was interesting getting connected, because when I came out here, I've been working on this area for 2 or 3 months, and I eventually want to get rid of my booth because I've got good aesthetics out here and it sounds great. And I'll come out here and I'll podcast sometime, or I'll record content and stuff. But and then I put an Apple MacBook Pro out here, and I'm learning the Apple side because I'm not great at Apple. So this year, that's been my goal. I'm going to learn it, and then I'm going to dump that booth. And so I made some changes yesterday, and then when I sat down, I went, oh, crap, I don't have a mic. Where's my mic at?
I switched from PCs to Macs almost 10 years ago. And it wasn't like it was a big, I'm doing this because of this huge revelation.
Right.
I had been working, at banks and in the Windows environment for literal decades. And I just wanted it to work better. Right. And I said, well, it's just a little smoother. It's not like, and I never say to people, switch, you gotta switch. That's stupid.
Do what you want to do.
One of the things I used to hate so much about was OS religious wars. I mean, look, if you use Windows and it works, then you're fine.
Right. My old PC box, I had it built the first year I went full time. So it's over 3 years old. It never causes me problems. I mean, it's just never been a problem. And it wasn't really the switch thing. It was more for me the travel thing, because I thought I got to get something. So I tried one of the tablet things, Microsoft tablet things. Yeah, the Surface Pro, and I just couldn't deal with it. And so when I got this laptop and I was able to put, Adobe in there and everything in there, and it was just lightning fast and made absolutely no noise. And I said, this is better. Because I was a Mac guy back when they started. I had the first Mac 128K that came out. Okay. I drove to Chattanooga, Tennessee to pick it up. And I remember it was about $2,000 back then. It was crazy expensive, and they couldn't do anything.
Right.
You had to put a floppy disk in for the program and buy an external just to store some data on, and it didn't hold anything. And then I went to, I had an Apple IIc and some other old Apple products, and I've always had iPhones. And I thought, if you love this iPhone so much, you're going to love this computer. And now the AirDrop and everything you can do is so fast.
Oh, yeah.
It's just good stuff.
I admit I am completely in the ecosystem. As a matter of fact, I just got back from vacation. But on vacation, every time I go on vacation, I say to my wife, you know what, I'm not going to take stuff. She said, why not? I'm like, okay, right? So I brought a booth. I bought an actual, PVC booth, because we were going to be there a week, and I drove. So she's like, bring the booth itself. And so in the booth, I had the 2 iPads, one where I was extending the screen from my MacBook that was sitting outside, and another iPad where I could read scripts, the interface on another little shelf underneath it. And all 3 of the iPads and the Mac were all connected, so the mouse and keyboard worked on all 3.
Yeah.
So I could roll the mouse through and scroll and click and send. I was saving everything to iCloud. So, I save it on the Mac to the iCloud, go to the iPad, click on the email, attach it from there, and go. Yeah. And it was just,
Seamless.
It was seamless, you know?
That's wonderful.
So
that's wonderful. Well, we've got conversation going already, George, but let's tell everybody this is George Washington III. If you don't know George, you may have heard that he's the new president, still somewhat new, of WOVO, and we want to get into WOVO heavy because after a conversation with Tim Powers a couple weeks ago, we forget about WOVO. A lot of us do. We just forget about it because you don't hear a lot or whatever. And then as he and I talked more and we got deeper into it, I said, why have I not joined this? And why am I not participating and trying to go to some of these things? It's crazy that I'm missing out on it. And I think a lot of people are.
Yeah. And a lot of it is over the previous few years, we kind of lost our focus as an organization. And what ended up happening was we had members and we weren't providing a lot of services for them. And that kind of took away any sheen of what we were and what we were about. Mm-hmm. And so when we started doing conferences again, after the pandemic, after the heart of the pandemic, mm-hmm. We did one in Orlando, and we did it like an ordinary conference with the exception of we had mostly members, and we all planned what we were going to do before we got there. And that was fine, and that was in May of 2024. Mm-hmm. So we decided that we would like to try and do something to revive the unconference style that existed with FAFCon and FAFCamp. Mm-hmm. And for folks who are unfamiliar with what the unconference style is, it means that the people who are in attendance decide what is important to talk about at the conference. So you come in thinking about, hey, you know what? I'd be interested in hearing about this or leading something about this. Mm-hmm. We put it all on the board. And people vote on the things they want to hear. And once the voting is complete, the team that's responsible for it puts the things in the right, into a schedule, and mm-hmm. we do the schedule.
Nice.
And it has really fostered a lot of camaraderie, a lot of listening, a lot of information sharing mm-hmm. that I think we are in need of still. And helps build a community. And right. I want to talk about that not without letting people know that this came from Amy Snively when she did FAFCon. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. I went personally to Amy and said, are you okay with WOVO picking up the torch of unconferencing? And she gave us the blessing to do so. Nice. And that's the way we've been going ever since. So nice. We did WovoCon last year in Chicago as an unconference. Mm-hmm. And as I walked around and saw people having the conversations and leading the sessions and sessions spontaneously spinning out that people didn't even realize that they were going to be a part of until the discussion started.
Right.
And I said, this is what WOVO should be about. Mm-hmm. This is peer-to-peer learning, accountability, and support. Mm-hmm. And so when I became president, I brought on people on the board and I said, this is the direction that we should be going in. We want to support each other in multiple ways. Mm-hmm. And so we put together a new plan. We redid our mission statement, and we've been working on new projects and new programs so that when people join, there are places for them to go and things for them to do that help each other and help themselves.
Nice. I think the concept's just fantastic. I can see where it would cause a lot of cohesion because everybody was listened to and things were put up there they wanted, and now we're going to do it, that's exciting. That's exciting. And not to say that the conference thing is wrong or bad, because I participate in some of that as well. I'm actually speaking at OVC again this year, and I look forward to that and the camaraderie. Love going to Dallas because it's smaller, but you guys are even more close-knit. You're limited to, if I remember right, 125.
Correct.
For what's coming up. And let's touch on that real quick. WovoCon is October 17th through the 19th, and it's in a wonderful place,
yes.
New Orleans.
Yes, sir. We're going to be in New Orleans. And we limit it to a maximum of 125. And part of that is because unconferencing itself does not Well, it starts to fall apart once you get above a certain number. Once you get over about 100 to 120 people, the problem becomes there are too many connections to be made for you to manage. And again, that is, as you mentioned, it's not to speak badly of any other conference that's larger than us. I have been to VO Atlanta a number of times, to VO North and those sorts of things. And they absolutely have their place. What we're trying to create is a smaller space where the connections are just as important as the content.
Yes.
Because things happen in the conversations between sessions. Some people will like, you know what, I'm going to miss this session because we need to talk about this thing together. New ideas spun out because people had a chance to sit down and talk, whether that's over lunch, breakfast, in between sessions, whatever.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
I look at it, one of the things that I valued so much coming out of FAFCON, I have friends that I meet with every week that I met at FAFCON in 2012.
Nice.
And, you know, and I'm in a mastermind group, largely of people who I met through FAFCON, through unconferencing. And I just want us to be a place where that can still exist and still help create those connections.
Yeah, I love that because I know I've been to VO Atlanta 3 times, and every time I never feel like I get to really talk to people like I want to, because there's, 500, 800, then there was 1,000. First year I went, it was the first year, I guess, after they went back to the live in Atlanta. I want to say it was around 500, 550. And it was pretty overwhelming at that. But the last 2 years after that, holy smokes. I mean, they were selling out and it was just packed. And I would see people, I could speak to them, hey, how you doing? Shake their hand, fist bump, whatever. But I didn't feel like I got to connect as much because you're constantly going, all right, I want to go to this session, this session, this session, this. And you're trying to map it all out. And then you run into somebody and like you said, you might miss a session. I love the personal connection thing because that is so needed by us as voice actors, because what do we not do most of the time? We're by ourselves, working alone, solopreneurs, wearing 10 different hats, and we need that connection. We need that support, and I just think this is awesome. Now, are you sold out yet?
We are not sold out. We still have spaces if people are interested. We want people to come and join WOVO. WOVO is only $99 a year. When you join WOVO, you are then eligible to come to WovoCon. And like I said, we're not hyper expensive. WovoCon registration, I believe, is $450, and we're covering breakfast and lunch. So we have you for 2 meals. You have you for all of the interaction. And on one side of this, too, remember, we don't record any of it. One of the things is live in that moment, right? Be there and experience it. But on the other hand, obviously, take notes, make sure you're talking to people. And we have some truisms about how we work there, one of which is be where you need to be. Meaning, if you go into a session and it doesn't quite click for what you need, you are free to get up and leave. Just go.
Nice.
And go to the other one. And the people who are leading know that's part of it. And what comes down for me is if you actually end up speaking to 3 people or 2 people, you still had an impact.
Right.
You still were able to make a connection with somebody and get them information that they needed. No egos, no eggshells, right?
I love it.
So we are working on, that's part of what we're trying to get across is this is a thing where people are about sharing information and sharing experience. And that means that for people who are even relatively new in the industry, you and I both know if you're coming from something else, you still have skills that people might want to know about. If you know about accounting, if you know about marketing, if you know about any of those kinds of things,
right,
you still have information that somebody might find valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Life experience, no matter what it is, really comes into play in this career for sure. Tim and I were talking the other day about there are a lot of us who were not ever actors. I was not in community theater. I didn't do all that in high school, but I was a kid with the biggest freaking imagination you ever saw, because when I got out my toys and they were playing, we were acting, we were interacting, we were talking to each other, putting on scenes. And then similar to what I looking at your background and having a music degree, those of us that grew up playing a lot of music, I was a drummer, I was in different bands, I was a front person for a gospel band for a long time. And that makes you, those things make you very, I don't want to say the rhythmic part of voiceover and all that comes into play. And to be able to convey to people, lots of things that you've done in your life come into play from the time you were a child to the time you went into voiceover that I did at the wonderful age of 57 years old. You can still take all of that and put it in there. And for me, it was everything from running my own business on the side. I had a real estate rental property business, and that really taught me how to follow up and make sure invoicing went out and be, how I had to present myself to my clients. And I grew up in the automotive industry after 12 years in the garment industry, and I spent about 27 in the automotive. And there again was where you learned about how important a process was. A repeatable, robust process that always gets the right result. And you don't change that process until it needs to be changed, things like that. And that goes into your business. It really will help you a ton. And that is something I teach. I do some consults with people, trying to figure out, how do I start my marketing? How do I do this? And how do I set this up? And you can take them back to some basics and get them started, and then they can grow with it and learn from it. And yes, everything is teachable. I just love the fact you guys are doing this.
And, that's why we welcome people who are not long-term 15, 20 years, 10 years in the business, is because people have experiences that matter. Right. Yep. One of the people who came last year was a Scottish voice actor who had only been doing it for 6 months. And no, he wasn't going to be able to talk to people about performance or those things, but he talked about a very specific thing that he felt he was able to share, and people attended it and loved it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that we want to continue to foster. Nice. Is that we're not necessarily going to need, of course we want professionals and people with long-term skill sets, because you've been there. You've been through all the ups and downs and learning how to live in an industry that isn't going to reward you for every single thing you do.
I also like the fact of newer people have experienced a different way to get into VO. All of us have a different path, but in the past 5 years, we saw this huge influx of people coming in COVID based. So we kind of the COVID VO rush, or whatever we want to call it. And unfortunately or fortunately, in the last year and a half, and I have these beliefs about this 3 and 5 year thing in VO. It takes you 3 years to understand and learn how all of this works, to get your coaching, to get started, and then you should be starting to make some money. Some people make money the first month. I get that too. But by the 5th year, you should have your base of business kind of built, and you should be rolling pretty good, and things are going. But we all get to that point in a different way. What a guy like Mark Ryder, who has been in this 15, 18 years, and how he came into his position, it's not going to be the same for me or you or anybody else. It's all different. So we have those things to share, but there's always somebody else similar enough you can connect with. And then that's another part of what you guys do. There's a mentorship program.
Yes, and a matter of fact, we are actually rebuilding it as we speak. When we came on board, we had a mentorship program, but I felt like it wasn't being effective enough. It wasn't. It had kind of devolved into a troubleshooting program, right? So someone had a problem, they'd look up somebody and they'd say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And that's fine. That does have value, because if I know how an Apollo interface works in this way, and you need me to help you with that, I'm happy to help. But what I thought we needed was a way to help those people who are new, need to find out a path, a framework, something, the things that kind of lay out, here's what you should know about this particular journey. Because like you said, not all of us get into it the same way. I mean, I've been in this for 23 years, but I was working in banks, and I was also performing on stage, and I did not have in Charlotte, North Carolina, access to the panoply of coaches that people have right now, right? People have access to almost every kind of coaching for voiceover that you could possibly want remotely.
Yeah.
We're sitting here on Riverside FM in, when we were doing stuff when I started, I took a class over the phone, right? Right. And so it's very different. Yeah. But what we're trying to do with the mentorship program is build here is a multiple week framework for you to engage with an experienced voice actor, you and them, period. You work on these things, and then at the end of that period, you go your own way. Now, if you two decide that you want to continue that mentorship, sure. But we're not locking people into it for forever, because I know one thing that people get afraid of in mentorship is, now I'm going to be an unpaid coach. That's unspoken. Yeah. People don't say that out loud, but that's an unspoken fear.
Right.
And me personally, as long as I get my stuff done, I want people to come to me who I've talked to and worked with to ask me questions. And we are trying to set up a way so that there is here's your baselines. Here are the things you should know. And walk them through that, and hopefully at the end, walk you into an accountability group so that you have a group of people who have been through that same experience. And now you can keep yourself marked and knowing when things are happening, how things are going with each other, and support each other as part of our support plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. And I'm with you on helping, because I have found the further along I get into my career, the more time I have, which it should have been backwards. You thought, no, I'll be busy. But all of the groundwork that you do early, building your marketing list and doing all the emailing and trying to build that base of business. And at first, a lot of us were auditioning for everything we can find because we're brand new and we just want to book some stuff and we just want to, start seeing money come in. And then it gets to the point where I go, I never book this, or this. So stop auditioning for that. There's no use you're never going to hear me reading something, a lot of stuff to do with tech or, AI, all the AI stuff now. AI can enhance your business and da-da-da-da-da. Unless it's in Texas, I get that every now and then. But usually it's, for me, I know it's going to be more commercial stuff, the peppered in video games, the in-show narrations I do for hunting and fishing and all that. I found my niche, and that's where I'm at, and it works great. But for people early on, a lot of us are just throwing spaghetti against the wall to get there, and to not have anybody guiding you and telling you what to do, you can dig a hole really quick. You can make a lot of rookie mistakes that aren't really published everywhere, but you need to know about, and a mentor could be such a help in that. Like when it comes to samples and putting things out there on the pay-to-plays, to try to get work, and do I have to do this and have to do that? You might hear some different opinions, but from most people that are established, they can guide and help you figure that out so you don't make the mistakes we made or they made. And what a wonderful program. That's just awesome.
I'm very much looking forward to us relaunching this in January. I have two people who are working on it very hard right now in Nikki Lulo, who a lot of people know, and Rebecca Howe. Yeah, and Rebecca Howe. Yeah. As they when Rebecca joined, I wanted to get in touch with her. So I was like, okay, what are you looking to gain and do? She says, I want to help. And she said, how about mentorship? I said, there you go. This can be your program. And I had already engaged Nikki about trying to set up the beginning of that for folks. And I said, look, I've got two dynamic people who know each other already and are invested in this kind of work and help. So I put them together, and they're already starting to get stuff together, putting together a group that they can start and seed and try it and make sure that this style will work. And we're modeling after a different mentorship program that I know works. So I love that this is a part of what we're offering. Again, what we're trying to do as an organization is to provide ways to build experience and community. And that's part of it. You know, we're looking at different ways to build on that community feeling, knowing that, again, we're spread out all over the place. We have people obviously in Canada, we have people in Japan, we have people in the Canary Islands, the UK, and things like that. And I'm trying to look at, on a system side as well. How are we going to keep these people together and in touch? And sometimes that means changing platforms. We got to look at different things to make that more possible. So we are trying to add some dynamism to the organization and give us particular things that people can say, hey, I like that. I like how they're doing that, without making it without any kind of detriment to any other group that people want to be in. Or any other organization that they trust. Because that's not what we're about. We can't be about that. We're about you getting to this part of your career, getting to the better part of your career by almost any means necessary. And we'll help you with that.
Awesome. I noticed too, as I went through the site, there's some really helpful PDFs for new voice actors. There's things in there pertaining to rates, which is always a hot topic. I can't say out of these 200 podcasts that I've done for VO Life that there's at least 10 of them out there about rates. There are, we have, the Bibles we can go to, GVAA, Gravy for the Brain. We all want to get the good rates. We all get very upset on pay-to-plays sometime because of the things we see on there. In a nutshell, let's just kind of get your take on the rate side of it and some of the approaches we can all do to make things better for all of us.
So obviously, as you mentioned, we have the Bibles that we go to, and that's what we refer to. As our members, we're like, here are the things that we want that you can use as good, solid references for what you're looking for rates. But the thing that I always end up coming back to is ask them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right? Say, what is your budget? When you're doing negotiations with people, ask them what their budget is.
Yep,
if they come back with a number that is not acceptable to you, you have two options. Tell them that, right? And say, this is not enough for what I think I need to do. And if they can come back with a better number, fantastic. And if they can't, be willing to walk.
Yes, absolutely. There's no more greater power sometimes than walking away. What I'm finding now that is harder, and I'm sure everybody runs into this, is now with all of the streaming and the digital and the different things, it's becoming hard sometimes to pin a client down. Where are you actually? How many places is this really going to go?
Right.
And sadly, a lot of times they're not really sure. They think they know, well, we know the client's going to put it here and here, but we're not sure about that. Maybe we need to go back and ask. And it's something we're going to have to navigate. And I know GVAA is working on that with some more breakdowns. The other thing with that is there are ranges in there. And one thing I always tell people is just because you're new doesn't mean you're not worth that money. The usage for your voice, they're not paying you for your experience. If in the first couple of years, you've gotten really, really good, you deserve everything we all deserve. Don't ever back down from those rates. But yes, there are ranges in there. And a lot of times that comes down to the size of the client and, where they're doing this stuff. And I always tell people, and I have to give Vince Labico credit for this because he's the first person I heard use this a lot. They would say it's $1,000 job and it's a $2,000 job and your negotiation is, well, that's only about 50% of what I usually get. Is there any way we could get that up closer to 80%? And a lot of times it works. I mean, because they don't know. We have to help educate them.
Yes, absolutely. And that is, when a lot of people coming into it, especially when you're working with people who aren't in the industry at all, they honestly don't know.
Correct.
They truly do not know what the number is. And so you can help them by saying, here's what we normally do. I am normally in line with industry rates, and we use these resources to help determine that industry rate.
Yep.
And if you can explain it to them, many times they do. They have it, right? But they don't know how to price that sort of thing.
Right.
So, of course, you're going to find the people who are going to be unscrupulous and not do it the way that we want to do it. But I would go in with the idea that if they are not an industry person, they probably just don't know.
Right.
And give them what they can work with. And maybe that helps them do their budgeting differently the next time, and I have lost jobs where I said, yeah, that's just not going to be as much as I would normally make for this. And they say, well, we'll certainly keep you in mind for other things. Maybe they do come back. Maybe they don't. It depends on, what they're looking for and what we're doing. Right. But I feel okay letting them know, here's what the reality of what you're asking for is, and saying, this is what I would normally charge for a thing. You're right. One of our biggest problems is not knowing where things are going to go. Because from a usage standpoint, when they say it's just going to be streaming, it'll be unpaid streaming. Yeah, but that means that you're going to have my performance for years if that's what you want. So let's talk about where and for how long you want to license this.
Right. And I do have the occasional client who will say, hey, I really appreciate you letting me know this. I didn't realize I needed to pay for each individual spot.
Yeah.
These younger folks coming out of college that have somehow hit with video production or something, there's a lot of people like that. I do some work occasionally up in Kentucky for the college in Bowling Green, Western Kentucky, and they have a really nice program. So they're always reaching out, asking you to donate something and do this and do that. And a lot of times I'll do that because that could be the guy or girl that moves out to a really nice production house and goes, that guy that helped us back at Western all the time, let's call him.
Yeah.
And it does work out. You another avenue to get you some work and get it out there and have a sample, and sometimes that's what it takes when you're new. But a lot of people do appreciate you telling them. But every morning when I scroll through some stuff, I'm like, okay, that pays $1,500. Let me look over here. Holy smoke, it's 7 different spots.
Yeah.
I'm like, and they're going to use it for a year and it's national? No.
Right.
And I don't know. I really wish, and I know it's a whole nother podcast. I really wish, I know they say they try to control certain jobs on voices.com and they oversee the managed jobs, but the easy thing, and I've been begging them for a year, I send them an email once a month, say, please take in perpetuity off anything that's broadcast. Don't even let them pick it. Just get rid of it. And then that way we don't have to put it in our proposal and sound like we're being a jerk. No, you can only have this for 1 year. Shame on you. I hate doing that.
Yeah.
But I do it.
It feels bad, right? Because because if you are empathetic at all, right? You feel like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to drive away a potential client. I don't want to do those things. But the reality is, the way things are working right now, we've got to protect what we can protect.
Yes.
Yes. We watch. We've all been talking about what's happening with AI and how people have decided that they're just going to use stuff and not pay you, not tell you anything about it, and those sorts of things. We have to defend what we can defend.
Right.
Especially when we're in a situation, particularly right now, when there is a drive to go to the lowest possible dollar and the lowest possible connection by using AI voices, right? We all saw a couple of weeks ago with Saga Communications. dropping all of their imaging voices for AI. And when they did that, the CEO said, "We saved 10 jobs." Really? Right? You saved 10 jobs in your organization, but you hurt a whole bunch of other people who were depending on that work.
Yep.
And I understand that maybe that would be more convenient for them. And I don't agree when I know that you and I have both heard like podcast insert ads, right? When you listen to a podcast and the ad gets inserted into it and you hear from jump, that's an AI voice.
Oh, yeah.
And then you hear the wrong pause or the wrong inflection or a blatantly bad pronunciation. Things that if you or I had done that would not have passed muster.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So
it's like it makes me feel like they don't care. So when I hear something like that, I'm like, there's no way I would ever buy that product. They're running one here locally on radio. It's some kind of dog electric fencing, and it's not Brad Hyland, but it's his voice. It's mighty, mighty close. And I know it's not him because Brad's not going to stammer up the words,
Right.
And it's close enough to where I go, I know they ripped his voice from somewhere. Somehow they did it, but I know it's not him. But when I hear that, I'm like, I'll buy anybody else's dog fence but theirs if I ever need one.
Yeah.
Because, that's my thing. They don't care. Even back when I was still in corporate work, in 2000, 2001, and then or 2020, 2021. We're going through all the COVID stuff. And we decided to make, this is how I got into voiceover, actually. We decided to make internal videos, and I was voicing all those for a return to work. You must stay 6 feet apart. You must do this, must do that. So we did that. Well, before that, they had done an AI thing, and we all listened to it. A couple of the managers were like, that's terrible. It's very impersonal, and it shouldn't be. And they said, you're right. It makes us sound like we don't care about our employees. If we won't put the time and effort into having a connection into that where it sounds real and it's, being conveyed in the right way, we're not going to use that. And that put me on the alert from that day forward that if they're using that and it sounds just okay to pass, and they don't even quality check it like some of the stuff you're talking about, why would I ever want their product? They don't care about their clients or customers. They don't care about anything.
Yeah.
They just want the cheap way out.
They didn't think hard enough that that's going to impact somebody, that your product is going to be presented in a way that looks bad, right? When it can't say a word, it can't say a phrase in a way that sounds natural. That's your product that's being represented out there. And it could have saved you embarrassment, brand damage if you just hired somebody.
Yeah.
I have a friend who was on a podcast, and her name is of kind of Eastern European. And she said they were using an AI voice to do the intro to the podcast. And it took a week and a half to tune the AI to say her name close to right.
Man,
you could have paid somebody $150 and gotten it right the first time. Right?
Yeah.
Instead, you paid somebody whatever their hourly rate was to keep tuning and still not get it right.
That's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous.
Right?
It really is. I know we had a company that came in and did some training to us, and it had to do with, where they do the personality testing and, you're a high A or a low D or whatever all that is. And they played a little 10-minute intro to the thing, and it had an AI voice. And when I thought they had a live person come do the training, flew down from wherever they flew down from, but yet they cheapened out for that AI voice just for that intro video, and it totally turned you off once you heard it. We're in Tennessee. We want to hear someone who sounds similar to us. It doesn't have to be a Southern accent, but give us something fairly neutral. But in comes this thing, this AI voice, and it's like New Jersey or Boston or somewhere, and we're all like, what did he say? We're not really sure. And that's another thing these companies need to pay attention to in these different regions. And people want to be talked to the way they talk, and they want it to feel like home and feel good to them. And folks, AI just can't cut it.
Yeah.
It just can't.
I know that things are going to get better, right?
Oh,
It's technology. Yeah. I mean, you think about where AI voices were 3 years ago.
Yes.
And where they are now, and they've improved greatly. Mm-hmm. But I think the main thing that is our argument, and it's a thing I talked about wherever I've been able to talk about it on NPR, in USA Today, in those places, is that we are not in the information business. We are in the emotion business.
Yes. Thank you for saying it that way.
And when we can convey emotion, even in e-learning, right, that whether we're communicating urgency or care or those things, until you are able to go into a system and say, I want this to be a caring voice, you're still going to lose out, because we know what that feels like.
Right.
When I was coaching more people, one of the things was like, your job is to feel out loud.
Yeah.
You need to feel out loud. And that is something that they cannot do. They can replicate it and try, but they don't feel out loud.
Right.
And that is the thing that we have to continue to get across to people, is that our emotional connection to the content, to their listeners, are the things that we do that you cannot just replicate.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, AI can't act and it can't feel. That's the two big keys to it. I don't want to keep you all day. I know I could, because we've got so many interesting things to talk about. A couple things I want to do before we go is be sure everybody knows how to find WOVO, how to reach out. We'll get that covered. And then we want to talk about your information as far as reaching out to you as well. And I appreciate the conversation that this came up with Tim. It opened my eyes to some things. You'll be seeing my transaction come through here in the next few days. I'm jumping on, and I'm coming in as any way you can use me, and we can have that conversation later. I love helping people. Just really enjoy it. So tell everybody, first off, WOVO, where to find the website, and then maybe another touch on the conference coming up.
Sure. So if you want to find us, we're at world-voices.org, and that's the homepage, and it'll tell you a lot of stuff about what we are and how we're doing things. If you find all that interesting, there is a Join Us link at the bottom of the page, or you can go directly to world-voices.org/join-us, and that will get you right into the sign-in process. So people understand, when you join, we're going to ask you how much experience you have. Are you a professional, meaning you've had 5 paid jobs in the prior 13 months, or are you an associate? There's not a huge difference. There's a couple of things about where we can put your demos and things like that make the difference. But again, 5 paid jobs in 13 months is the break point. And it's okay if you are an associate and you don't have that. You can still take part in 99% of the programs that we're offering. And second, if you're interested in WovoCon, because we want you to join first in most cases, you can join. Take about a week, because we have to look at your stuff and check your website out and those things. And then you sign up for WovoCon. That is at WovoCon.com. And there is a lot of information about it. We've made some videos to explain the unconferencing process and some of the values that come out of it. Testimonials from people who have been to unconference events, including WovoCon. And you can see what we're talking about and get a feel for what we're trying to build, both with the organization and with the conference.
Nice. So definitely check that out. Like I said, I'm going to do that this week and get all my stuff in. I meant to already do it, but it's just been, I think, prepping to go to OVC, having to send in my slides and all this stuff. And I felt like I did, like a lot of us do. I worked on it 3 months ago, and then I never did finish it. And then all of a sudden I go, heck, it's in 3 weeks. I got to get ready.
Amen. It's so never too late.
Through that.
Never too late.
Never too late. And so if somebody just wants to reach out to you personally, ask you some questions, or maybe just hit you up, how do they reach you?
So my website is voevolution.com. My email address is george@voevolution.com. You can find me on social media all over the place, GWIII. I'm on TikTok as VO Evolution. And if you search for me on the internet, my current pet peeve is that there's a young man playing basketball for, I think, Richmond University now, whose name is George Washington III. And because he's an athlete, he's kind of swamped some of my SEO.
Yeah,
right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
But, that's the way it goes sometimes. And that'll tell you how many George Washington IIIs are out there. Yeah, but if you're looking for George Washington III voiceover, I'll be the first one.
Yeah, just put VO on the end, you'll get him.
Yes.
I even found, as uncommon as my name is, there's a Troy Holden photographer. He's pretty famous out in California, and there's a Troy Holden actor. And I've not seen him in anything, but it's kind of odd.
That tells you why it's so important to buy your name URL if you can.
Right. Yeah. And with yours, I'm sure that's near impossible.
I got it a long time ago, and you know why I got it? FAFCON. Because one of the guys there who is currently a member of WOVO said, buy your name domain and buy other things you're interested in, just hold them, and you just do redirects. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, George, I've so enjoyed this. I know I met you a few years ago at Kevin Kilpatrick's. That's been a while, and have always enjoyed watching your content and watching your your rise. I mean, everybody rises and they do more every year and they do new things. And to see you take over WOVO was really exciting to me. And then after talking to Tim, I said, I've got to talk to George. And I need to get involved in this because I can only do so much quietly on my own. And this gives an outlet to where maybe I can, reach some people that my podcast doesn't reach and my Facebook group doesn't reach. I mean, we've got 1,600 people in the group, but who knows if 500-600 of them just aren't, people that get on there for nothing.
That's the thing with Facebook groups and why I'm looking at other options is because you never know. Right. You can have all these people, but zero engagement. So
they answer the questions and they come in, and I've got a certain group of folks that are always engaging and happy to help people on there. And I've got a good admin team, but I kind of watch from week to week as there's less newer people coming in. Used to we'd get 25, 30 a week, and now it's 4 or 5 a week. It's kind of changing. And I think a lot of that has slowed down. And yes, I don't ever want to say there's plenty of voice actors. Go do something else. I'd never say that to anybody. But on the other hand, with a lot of people fell for the make money in your pajamas and and they didn't really, went and got a mic, and they really didn't want to invest. And so anyway, but again, George, thanks so much. I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. And there's a button on here somewhere where I can just stop the recording and not make anything else happen. There it is.
There you
I'm
go.
going to hit that button.
And that's another episode of The VO Life. Thanks for dropping in and hanging on. The VO Life was brought to you by voinbox.com.
The marketing tool that gives you back something others don't. Make an investment in your marketing that not only cultivates clients, but gives you back time.
If you are a professional voice actor and you need to up your direct email marketing game, VO Inbox might be for you.
Reach out to Troy in an email to get 25 leads free with your paid subscription. Send that email to troy@troyholdenvoices.com.
Need to talk about building your VO business? You can schedule time with Troy on his website in half-hour or full-hour sessions. There's even a free 15-minute consult available, all on the website at troyholdenvoices.com.
Thanks for being here, and join us again next week on the VO Life.